Welcome to Coffee Commerce. My name is Sean Ramett. I'm the grandson of a coffee farmer from Guyana, South America. On Coffee Commerce, we don't just talk about coffee and business, but we talk about the stories behind coffee and how they connect to business, ideas, culture. We've been talking about the coffee houses in Europe, and we talked about Vienna, we talked about Venice, we talked about France, and then back to Vienna. But it's important to connect the timeline in Europe, and this is unique. As you will see that there is a number of different cultures and countries and people that will claim to have the first coffee houses or to introduce coffee in Europe. And that everyone has played a role in how coffee becomes part of the European culture. Let's start with the Venetians. In 1615, the Venetian traders are the first ones to experience coffee as they go around the world trading. And we talked about how Venice was uniquely positioned in the world because they had a republic, not a monarchy or a theocracy like their neighbors. So they were not at war within Europe, they were not at war with the Turks, who were the ruling. As traders, they traveled, and we see that the Venetians come to Istanbul, taste coffee, experience the Turkish coffee house, and they bring this concept back to Venice. It takes some time before it catches on, but around 1645, coffee is introduced into Venice, first in lemonade stands, not in coffee houses. A few years later, coffee houses start to appear in Venice. A couple decades later, we see that in France, coffee houses start to appear as well, in part due to trade and in part due to the Turkish ambassador to Paris. In 1669, the Turkish ambassador to Paris introduces coffee and the coffee culture to Paris. In 1671, Marseille's actually opens up the first coffee shop due to trade. Shortly after 1671, Paris introduces coffee houses, French cafes. The French do not know how to make coffee the way that the Turks do, or the way that the French would enjoy them. An Italian seizes the opportunity and introduces coffee shops and a way that the French would enjoy their coffee. In 1683, we have the siege of Vienna, and Vienna then opens up their coffee houses, but with a difference. They introduce a more European style to drinking coffee, filtering it and adding milk, as well as having not just the traditional Turkish coffee house, but coffee houses that have a European culture to them. The Vienna coffee house goes beyond Vienna and goes to other countries and other cities. And this style of coffee house becomes a cultural element that other cities would adopt as well. Coffee houses became a place in Europe that would inspire discussion. It would inspire artists, musicians, politicians. It would inspire writers and business people, a place to do business, a place to write, to be inspired. But funny enough, the first coffee house may not have been on mainland Europe. For that, we may have to go across the pond. But that's another story for another cup of coffee. Thank you.